Welcome to the Purposeful in Life podcast, where our mission is to help individuals and organizations find their purpose so that they may live a life that is fulfilling and inspired in and out of work. Your hosts, Christina Hall and myself, Garrett Willey, are passionate to inspire, teach, mentor, and serve our community. We have 42 years of combined experience as entrepreneurs and in international corporations. Both of us have military backgrounds. Myself, Garrett, as a commissioned officer with over 9 years of service, and Christina as a military spouse of over 15 years. Welcome to Purposeful in Life, where together we go on the journey of discovering a life filled with purpose and intention. We'll just let it go because it's actually kind of fun.
It is fun.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Purposeful in Life with your host, Garrett Willey.
Christina Hall.
And our producer,
Sadie Marlowe.
Yeah. Today we have a fun guest that has a business called Queen Bee, and it's helping women. You're gonna have to tell more about it.
Oh yeah,
I don't know a ton.
That's okay.
And her name is Jenna.
Yep.
Brash.
You got it.
Jenna Brash. Yes. And so all of our shows, Jenna, just so since you're a newcomer to Purposeful in Life,
yep.
is with the intention of living with purpose and intention.
Yes.
Right? So we seek here our own purpose in life so that we have, as Simon Sinek calls it, a why. Right? So we're trying to help ourselves, which we've identified, but help others as well identify what their mission statement is in life.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? And then once you can create a foundational mission statement that will overlap in all areas of your life, it overlaps for your work and your personal and spiritual life. It is literally your foundational piece to your life. And a lot of people end up saying, oh, my why is my kids, right?
Yep.
Or my why is my job, or my why is making money, or, like the list can go on and on. And it's like, well, those are secondary purposes. So like at some point your kids will grow up and move out and have families of their own, and you'll see them a few times a year, maybe, hopefully more.
Yeah.
Right. But
Absolutely.
does that mean you no longer have a purpose in your life?
Absolutely
That you have no reason for being alive, right? So that's why we're like, ooh, dig a little deeper, folks. We want to encourage you to find what you were created for, and I believe that God created us for a purpose, right? And then I also know that we all have had experiences, good and bad, in our lives. Some horrific, really painful experiences, some amazing experiences where we were able to give our gift away of our purpose. And through those things, those experiences have built up our lives so that we can find purpose and fulfillment in giving back to other people with what we've learned.
I love that.
So that's what we're all about.
That.
And this show's intention is to share our experiences, what we're learning in life, what we're going through, what our history is that brought us to where we are. And we like to have guests come on because you'll have a different perspective.
Yes.
That somebody down out there could be somebody who listens to us live. It could be somebody who listens to an episode 4 years from now. It doesn't really matter. But we're here with the intention that we can make an impact in somebody else's life.
Love it.
And so if we do that every episode or once a year, we fulfilled our purpose here. And my mission statement or why statement, according to Simon Sinek, he has some great books on this, and we're like raving fans of his, is to teach and mentor individuals so that I could make an impact in their lives and those they influence. Right. So it's about when I've had experiences in life where it's like I've been in front of people and taught, like even like back in college or what have you, and I see people like light up like, oh yeah. Right?
They get that spark.
And they get that spark. And then part of my why discovery, when Christina and I were talking about this last year, it's almost been a year, right?
Yes.
Like 9 months,
Crazy.
and what I don't even know. But when we got together for a day on a Sunday, and we're like, okay, we're going to go through Simon Sinek's Find Your Why.
Yes.
We've both read it. We've both read Start With Why, which is his first book on the subject. Then we went through the say it again, Find Your Why? Find Your Why framework. And that helped us just follow the directions. And we spent like 8-9 hours together that day. And we went through Christina's, then we went through mine, then we went through what this podcast was going to be, so we can identify the purpose statement for each.
Yes.
And I believe it's a mission statement too.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's cool. It's important to find. I'll be able to email you. I wrote this like 10-page saying? I haven't even sent it to you yet, Christina.
No.
So, but it's all this, it's like,
What
What the heck?
it's a culmination of the stuff we've been talking about,
Yeah.
right? And I kind of put together, and it's got like probably like 40, 50 questions in there, and you can go through it and read it, and then come back to Christina and be like, okay, let's get together for an hour or two and go through this so that you can write out what that why statement is for you
Love it.
in his format, right? And while you might tweak the words a little bit,
Yeah.
the essence of it will stay the same for your whole life.
Absolutely.
So that's why I like that story about like when I was in college teaching at a little college group where I spent 20 hours to do a 20-minute lesson, sharing my faith or whatever. I don't know what it was
Yes.
about. The only part I remember was seeing people's like light up
Yes.
and then feeling that fulfillment.
Yep.
And so our why, our purpose is always in service of others, right? And so through us talking in that like 3 hours of working on me, it was like, okay, we can see the resonation of, you know, highlights in these stories throughout my life. And she's asking me questions and taking notes. And we're able to identify like what these main points are and what the emotion or feelings or experience was behind it. And then we circle the ones that happened over and over and over again. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this just, I mean, the thing I like about Sinek is that he makes it simplified, right? We're taking a really massive subject
Yes.
and like trying to narrow it down, right? And in my, I'm in a Business Networking International, which is a smaller business. Well, there's like 1 million people or whatever. There's a ton of people in it because it's a global thing, but they're smaller groups, you know, anywhere from like 20 to 50 people. And there's in that type of networking, there's like one seat or profession. There can only be like one roofer, and I'm a roofer
Yes.
in that group. One real estate agent, one residential insurance broker, blah, blah, blah. Right. So instead of me teaching about my roofing business because it's boring, I mean,
Maybe to some.
you don't care unless
others.
water is pouring through your roof, and then you just want to know how am I going to fix it, or what are my options for fixing it, and then I'll teach you the stuff that's specific to that,
Of course.
and beyond that, it's like, what's the point? So I've like 8-9 months ago, I decided to stop teaching about roofing because I realized, wait, this is dumb. It's not going to connect with anybody,
Yeah.
and start focusing on how can I help other people improve their lives and their business, which fits with my why
Absolutely.
statement. So I was like, well, I'm just going to live my why and everything else will fall in place. And it does. You actually get more business by serving people
Yes.
rather than trying to serve your own needs. So I did an 8-minute presentation, and people asked me to talk about what Christina and I talk about every couple of weeks, which is why. And I'm like, how do I take like a 2 or 3 hour like conversation and
Yeah.
bring it down to 8 minutes, which by the way, I went over because I always go over,
Of course.
right, Sadie? So I was like 10 minutes on the 8 minutes, so 20% overage. That's not too bad for talking. Yeah, so I went and spent a lot of time. I was thinking about it for weeks. That night before, I pretty much stayed up the whole night. I slept a little over 3 hours because I was like, I really wanted to like try to like bring it down to the finest thing. And what I ended up doing is putting together like notes from all this stuff to like a 10-page document, because it's like all I can do is like give an overview, like what you and I were just talking about, what we were sharing the last 5 minutes or so, and then give people homework. Because if someone really wants to live with purpose, so they're not just floating through life,
Yes.
they got to do some work.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
You can't just expect
to
someone to
deep
hand
dive.
it to you. Yeah, you got and you got to be willing to acknowledge emotions and feelings and experiences
You have to
Oh,
work through
yes.
a lot of stuff.
Oh, yes.
always, and it doesn't end, right? You keep working on it even after you have that discovery where you're like, okay, now I got a statement, right? A
Yes.
mission statement. I like
Yes.
calling it a mission statement because it's really your personal mission statement, not like, if you run your own business,
Yep.
which all of us do here, that can flow into your business, and it should.
Absolutely.
Direct your business to fulfill your values and your mission. Otherwise, what's the point of having a business?
Yep. With my business mission statement, when people ask me what I do, I don't tell them my job title.
Yeah.
I tell them my mission statement,
Which is,
which is I authentically connect and empower badass women of this area through community wellness events.
nice. Tell us more.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole point, right? that's my opening. I'm not just an event planner, because people are like, oh, okay, she probably does weddings or she does different retirement parties or whatever it is. And I don't do any of that actually. So what I do, and just hearing you speak, I'm thinking, yep, all this bad stuff that's happened to me in my past, I did the deep dive to find my why, and I feel like I'm doing that on a daily basis. It's continual work. But it was interesting when I finally was able to own some of those misfortunes that had been handed to me, how I was able to take them and understand, connect the dots to those events and to how I had to go through those to end up where I am today in order to empower and educate women in what I'm doing right now. So this all started when a good friend of mine and I created the Women's Wellness Expo in Gig Harbor last year in July. And she had come to me with this idea, and I just had this vision to make it even bigger. It was originally just going to be in a small local business parking lot, and we ended up at a really great local park in Gig Harbor, and we had 2,500 people show up. We fundraised like $30,000 for our first year event. I mean, it was huge. We got big corporate sponsors. Shout out to Multicare. We love you and all your support. But the coolest thing from that was that of all of our vendors, we had just under 100 vendors, and like 90% of them were females who were entrepreneurs or small business owners. And the energy between those vendors was amazing. It was not competitive at all. They really wanted to connect and understand the story behind the business. And so many people love to know that purpose. And they were able to share with each other and really connect and start collaborating in really authentic ways that was continuing my personal and business statement, which is to connect and empower people in our community, specifically women. And they were doing that just from this one event that I just decided to make happen with my good friend. So I really wanted to capture that momentum and start doing that full time. And so from that event, I created Queen Bee Events. And the story behind that is my family and I raise honeybees. And up until I started raising honeybees, I did not realize, obviously, you've got a queen of every hive, but then the worker bees are all females, all of them. The only males are the drones that come in to mate with the queen. And they don't stay long. After they mate, they're done. Bees are very efficient. So once your job is done, you're done. So they actually kick the drones out. But it was the whole idea of women need to put themselves first and treat themselves like a queen, because so often we are at the bottom of our own to-do list. And then they need to be able to have this reciprocal relationship with the other females in their community. I'm here to support Christina. Christina's here to support me, Sadie, so forth. It's a collective purpose to support each other in ways that women really understand the struggle between being a mom, the struggle of getting, thrown up on by your toddler as you're trying to get out the door for work. Like, we've all been there. We know that. We understand looking like a hot mess. And instead of looking at somebody like that and judging them, being like, girl, I feel you because I've been there. And being really purposeful with our interactions and then bringing vulnerability into that too. Because I really feel our culture is excellent at pitting women against each other. It's this pressure to be the best mom, but also be the best at your job. Be the best wife, be the best you, have all this time to go and work out and look a certain way and be the best at everything. Well, if we're all trying to be the best at everything, there's not room to have somebody else right next to you being the best based on this message that society's been sending us. And so we get into this mindset of we have to be competing in order to be achieving in life. And that's
overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. And there's so much good that could happen when we put our own insecurities aside, when we open up and we're honest and vulnerable with each other and we collaborate. So from the event and seeing all these amazing female-owned businesses and entrepreneurs, Queen Bee Events, We do the Women's Wellness Expos once a year, and we actually are expanding. So we're having a second one this year in Kitsap County. But then I started We Rise, and We stands for Women Entrepreneurs Rise, and it's a networking group for women. I'm originally an educator, first and foremost, so our networking groups are monthly. There's no membership fee because women, we're crazy busy. Sometimes we can go, sometimes we can't. We have to be very aware of our family budget. So it's a $20 drop-in fee. And there's always an industry expert that comes in and does an hour-long presentation or workshop with your authentic networking mixed into all of that.
And that's monthly?
And that's monthly, yeah. So we're actually expanding. This month, we are expanding here in Tacoma. So we've partnered with Seven Seas Brewery. And so all of our meetings are going to be over there. I think it's the third Thursday of every month. March 24th is our first one from 6:30 to 8:30 at the tap room. Shannon Runyon is a female business owner. I've gotten to know her very well over the past few years, and she is extremely supportive of this. So we're really excited to be over there. But really, it's just a place for people to come and to be vulnerable, especially as a female business owner, and say, oh my gosh, yes, you've got all these things to do as a business owner. You're the office manager, you're the social media manager, you're out there, you're the community engagement manager, all the hats that you wear. We were talking a little bit about that, Garrett, before we started. But then you have all these additional expectations as a female. So to be able to come together once a month and say, oh my gosh, yes, I need some help with my social media marketing, but also I just want to be understood. Like, oh my gosh, the grind, the hustle. How do I build boundaries?
Yes.
What's that, Sadie?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. You can say more than one word.
It's still so awkward for me. Totally get it.
But and then that's one thing too. I have this innate pressure on myself to do all of the things, to never say no to somebody else, because then I'm the bad guy. If I'm setting boundaries for myself, or if I'm making myself a priority, oh my gosh, I am wearing the guilt like no other. And that is ridiculous, because if Christina was telling me this, I'd be like, girl, you need to set yourself some self-care boundaries. You may, go take a bath, say no to people, do you, so that you can then fill your own cup, right? So that you can fill the cup of others. So that's really what that group is all about. And then we do other events, just fun events that bring women together. They don't have to be women who own their own businesses, but we've got a Run Disney event. So we're coming together as a group and training for a half marathon in November. So we're actually going to be training with this group for 12 weeks before we fly out to Walt Disney World with no kids, no partners, just this awesome group of women who are going to crush their race goals and run at the happiest place on earth. Go do all the rides, eat all the cotton candy and those Mickey pretzels without having to share with your kids, but just helping women take the opportunity to make time for themselves.
Katie will be so jealous. You should do it.
Yeah. She's like, no.
I'm not a runner.
See, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
I would just go
Running
to support you guys.
Yeah, I know, right? And that's one thing too, it's just finding those ways to connect with people. So Christina actually came to our first We Rise retreat at the Alderbrook.
So amazing. Oh my gosh.
The Alderbrook is my jam.
Oh,
I love that place.
it is so lovely.
So you need
so
to do
relaxing.
it again, Jenna.
I know, we're already planning, and we're already the results that we got back, or the feedback rather, from the attendees. You have some beginning entrepreneurs that just need that motivation, that need somebody to tell you, yes, you are worthy. Yes, your purpose is one that you need to share with other people. But also there are entrepreneurs who've been in the game for like 10 years and like, I need some real tangible resources with strategic planning, with budgeting, with financial and fiscal management. So our next We Rise retreat is going to be more like a conference. So you have options for the workshops. And so maybe you have your beginning entrepreneur workshops, and then you've got your more advanced based on how many years you've been in the business or what you personally need in that season of your life.
Good.
Yeah.
I really like what you've been talking about, a spirit of cooperation versus competition.
Yes.
You know, because competition is actually what the original word that ended up being placed as Satan in Scripture in like the 800s
Really?
or whatever. They never referred to him as Satan, you know, previous to that time. During the canonization of Scripture and stuff is like when that started to come into place. So it was actually competition, because competition is the separation of man, with us separating one another, and hence because we're created in the image of God, competition is a separation from us and God. Right? So that whole concept that has come into place with capitalism, which I love, but there's different parts of capitalism,
Yes.
right? Is that it has to always be in competition. And you can think about it even in athletics, right? If you're trying to beat somebody else, that's where competition is. It's like, and then even if you win, you might not necessarily win. Versus if you're always trying to improve yourself and collaborate with your team to be the best you can possibly be, that's how you can win regardless of the results.
Yes.
Because then you can, even if you have a micro failure, like in a sports situation where you lose a match or a game, you can sit back and learn from that. Not as in like beating each other up, but like, okay, where did we have mistakes? Where can we improve those? You know, and so we can do that in business and in our personal lives as well. And like I found, like, as a roofer, that I don't, you know, for instance, there's a guy that I didn't win a roof against, like another company, right? And they got it. And I was like, at first I was like, all, you know, like upset about it. And then I went to this Washington Roofers Association thing, and I was in a class with a manufacturer. And then the manufacturer started talking about Habitat for Humanity, where we've done a couple of roofs. And they were like, and Garrett's done some roofs, and it's really easy. And they asked me to like talk about it and like what that meant, like as far as like financially and timeline and stuff. And then they gave an example of this other contractor, right? This other roofer. And I was like, oh, I lost a job to him like a week ago. And now I can't be mad at him because I've seen what he's doing for the community.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I want to get to know that guy. You know? It's like, we don't need to be in competition,
Yes.
right? Because there's plenty of business to go around.
Yes, that's it. It's the scarce mindset versus the abundant mindset. And and honestly, I feel like you can take everything down to two emotions: love or fear. So with the scarce mindset, it's all deeply rooted in fear. Fear that I am not as good as that other person. I am not as worthy as that other person. And then those thoughts start creeping in. Oh my gosh, I can't be happy for Christina and her success because that somehow lessens my own success.
And that's
which is
so true.
yes.
That's so true. So my husband, I'll just chime in again.
Yes, please
My
do.
husband has this saying that has like changed my perspective on things and how to change things. It's none of us as strong as all of us. And when you meet someone who, like, I met somebody who has a recording studio up the street and it's great. And I reached out. I was like, hey, I would love to meet you. And you know what I mean? Like, because he has things that he can do that I can't do in mine, like a kitchen. You know, that's great.
Yeah.
And so we got to meet and we became friends. But if you approach it that way, you find another partner that you can help build up that will go both ways. And then also fear and excitement is the same chemical release in your brain. It's literally your perception. So anytime like public speaking is really hard for me in bigger groups. And so my husband tells me again, like, if you're scared, you have to trick your brain saying, I'm not scared to do it. I'm just so excited. I'm very excited about
Yes.
it. And it literally changes the whole game 100% every single time.
Absolutely.
And I've started to teach my 10-year-old daughter that. And now she's like, she's gone for choir and she's done plays and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's literally just your mindset.
I love
It's
that.
crazy.
I love that.
You're so
That's
wise,
deep.
Sadie.
I'm trying.
I like that. I wrote down what you said. None of us as strong as all of us. You know? And so that's what we want to be here for. Is I love what you were saying about collaboration, you know, because that's how we can help each other find our purpose in life.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited about all of your conferences and education moments and
Thank you.
everything, because that's going to really help connect the community. It doesn't matter if somebody else has another health and wellness business. some of their products might be better, some not, some might complement, right? Either way, you want to help them succeed.
Yeah. And
Right.
not everybody's going to resonate with you. So
Exactly.
if you have someone you can refer to,
Yes.
you're going to look great either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's a great thing to be able to be like, in business, it's like, hey, if you feel like we're a good fit, let's move forward. Tell me yes.
Yeah.
If not, tell me no, and that's okay too.
Exactly.
And I'm happy to connect you with other
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Because who wants to be in a forced business relationship or personal relationship for that matter, just because you feel like you have to get this client, you have to get this job, you have to win that. If you're forcing something, that energy is going to take over that entire process that you have with that client or person.
Yeah.
And that's, I keep on going back to scarce and abundant mindset, but if you had to take care of all the roofs in all of Pierce County, you would need to clone yourself.
I already do.
Oh, right. But that's, when you think about it that way, there is enough business, there are enough clients, there are enough partners and community agencies for all of us. We don't have to feel so territorial about claiming these people. And what right do we have to sit there and essentially make that choice for those people already?
But we have none. This is crazy. I was talking to a friend of mine last night that sells for an arborist company, right? Evergreen Tree Care. They're like the biggest in Washington State. And he just does like door-to-door selling. And then the master arborist goes out and does the final estimating because it takes somebody with like an education that's like specific for that to be able to help people. And the master arborist, there's ultimately salespeople as well, right? And my buddy Chris was talking to him about like going through the process where he's talking to somebody and saying, hey, this is what you'll experience when the master arborist comes out. And at the end of the time, we're trying to give you the information to make a well-informed decision. And we're just looking for you to say yes if you want to work with us, or no if you don't. And it's okay if you say no too. I've taught Chris those words. And sometimes no is no, not right now. Because if it's going to cost $3,000 or $5,000 or $1,000, whatever, it doesn't matter. If it's going to cost something and you're like, oh, I can't do that right now, but maybe in like 4 months, it's better to communicate that because then the other person knows how to take care of you. Like, oh, you want me to call back in 4 months because that's when you think you might be ready, and then we can readdress it at that point. What I find is weird is that we have to learn how to communicate better to help other people communicate better, right?
Yes.
And so the reason I'm bringing this up is that the master arborist said, oh, don't ever tell people it's okay to say no. That plants that seed in their mind. And like last night, I kind of got on the soapbox with Chris, I was like, oh, I got to talk to this guy. He doesn't understand selling, right? Because most salespeople are doing this other method or old school thing where they think they can force somebody to make a decision and they're trying to manipulate people. And by the way, I think manipulation, like I have a different definition of manipulation. I'll say, I want to manipulate people. And they'll be like, oh, he's a con man. And I'm like, no, I need to use a different word. I want to influence you in a positive manner.
Yes.
Right? Because I just think about it as a synonym, right?
Yeah,
and then if I say that, people are like automatically cringe and they get all like
this
oh, because they're thinking con man,
Yeah.
right? And I'm thinking, no, I mean like Tony Robbins manipulates, but he's trying to get you to get out of your own way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not the neurolinguistic programming is him talking through things so that you can make a connection in your mind and be like, oh, and then make a decision that'll better yourself, whether it be with him or on your own or with somebody else.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to do. Like, if you can help somebody get a connection to where they can connect with women or others, it doesn't have to be with you
No.
or with me or with Christina. It's like, we just want you to get better.
Exactly.
And help yourself.
Yeah.
That's why we were talking earlier. You have to make the decision and do the work.
Yes, you do.
And so I guess there's 2 points in this. One is make a decision and actually learn how to vocalize it. Right? It's really hard for someone to help you if you can't say
What you need.
Right? Like, and I was telling Chris like that one part about, you got to be able to like, don't worry about what the other guy said.
Yeah.
Because he's missing the whole boat. Right? Like by telling people it's okay to say no. I'm shaking the whole table on all the mics.
You're very excited.
Yeah, by telling people it's
Loving
okay to say no, you're actually telling them something they already have the authority of.
Yeah.
We don't have the authority to tell someone that they have to come to your conference or your event,
Yep.
right? You want to just say, hey, here's your options, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to make a decision,
Absolutely.
right? So that's the one part. The other part is getting them to make a decision,
Yeah.
right? Indecision is still a decision.
Yes.
So why not just
that.
like that's something I've learned in like the last year. Like when someone's like telling me something and I'm like, I like your product, but I don't have, $4,000 to buy that, invest in that service right now. So when I say no, I'm not. I've started to tell people I'm saying no, but I mean no right now. It could be in the future.
Yeah.
I've had to learn to like articulate that
Absolutely.
only because I've seen it with people and I'm like, how do I get them to do it? Right?
Yeah.
And then we have to learn to make decisions and do it quickly because how can you expect others to make decisions if you can't even make them yourself?
Exactly.
So if you have a business or a product or service and yet you fail to make decisions or you procrastinate, how can you expect others to make decisions or not procrastinate when it comes to you if you're living that life yourself?
The truth is, like, especially with marketing, either yourself or your business, people are not buying your services or your products. They are buying you.
Yes.
If you do not have that clarity around your own purpose, if you do not have that ability to articulate what you want to do and what you want to bring into this world, then people automatically look at that and feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like, wait a second, you're asking me to give you all this money, but you can't give me straight answers about what exactly I'm buying into or why I should. That's going to make me hesitant to do business with you. And that's, this is one of my pet peeves. I've been seeing a lot of marketing that is kind of that more aggressive, more traditional hard sell marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to the wayside. I hope it's going to the wayside.
I think it is too.
People are becoming more intentional with how they spend their money, and the studies show, especially with these upcoming generations, they are willing to spend a lot of money on people and purposes that they have an emotional connection to.
They resonate with, yes.
Exactly. So for anybody out there who's involved in marketing in any way, please don't come at me with the hard sells, because my instinct is to just shut you down. And I'm being totally honest and transparent. I want to get to know you. I want to understand why you do what you do. I want to know that journey that you took in order to find your purpose. Because then I know that there is a little bit of me in you, and likewise. Because honestly, we collectively as a society have way more in common than we do our differences.
Oh, yeah.
But we need to take the time to address those and to communicate those. And going back to your point, you do need to have clarity, and you do need to have that intentionality around your communication with other people, or else that purpose of yours, it might be totally passion driven and, filled with heart, but it could be lost on others if you don't have that own clarity.
And part of the clarity is identifying purpose, which is what this whole show is about, and then identifying your values, like what you believe in.
Yes.
How many people I think I'm still toying with this, trying to figure it out, right? I think I'm oh, I know what I believe in, and then I'm like, well, what do you believe in?
Yeah. tell me more.
Sorry about the mumble. What is it, Garrett? Right? And we talk all the time about this stuff, and it's okay, we need to be able to spread it out, and identify what that is. And that's why on the back of my business card, I put my values. Ooh. And I was listening to, I can't even remember, a podcast, and they were only have 3 values for your business. They're the core values, because what happens is that, or personally, right? I mean, you can have other things that are subsidiary to it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be this is what I believe in, integrity, quality service and leadership for me. And leadership is by active service, not of authority. And so boom, boom, boom. It's on the back of my business card. I'll give you one when we're all done, so you can read that. And that's how I want to direct my business.
Absolutely.
Right? But if you don't know what that is, how do you then go and explain it to somebody else? and then something, I think Simon Sinek talks about this. Maybe it might be in the Infinite Mindset. What's the name of that book? Do you know?
The Infinite Game.
Infinite Game, yeah. Really good, by the way.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a whole list going.
Yeah.
If you read any book, this one should
Just
be
Okay.
really,
top
really,
priority.
really
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have hundreds of books. I wonder how many between us.
I don't know.
Probably over 500 books. But we probably have a lot of the same ones too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Infinite Game, he's talking about working with people that you resonate with. Because there's so much business like we were talking about out there. Why would you want to work with somebody who doesn't have? We all want to work with people that have the same beliefs
Yes.
and values as us.
Yeah.
Right. So why not just say, I'm a Christian. This is my faith. These are my values. This is the business model that I'm trying to develop and run, and how I want to help my customers. And if you resonate with that, it's not like you have to be a Christian, but if you resonate with like a faith-based life, living with purpose and intention, having integrity, and like these things, then give us a call. We'd love to see if we make sense working together. If not, find somebody else.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because you should work with somebody that you resonate with.
You
If you're an atheist and you think I'm full of shit, then move on. Right?
I didn't know we could swear. Now this is so much fun.
We're not supposed to.
Oh, okay.
No, you can. There's no.
Do we get
We're
a
not
bleep?
TV,
Do you do the
and we're
bleep, boop,
no,
I probably should. I'm trying to get away from that.
right.
But
We're not TV or radio, so we're not monitored that way.
Oh,
So
interesting.
you just can't smoke in here.
Oh, I can deal with that.
yeah, we don't do that either. But, it's like, just move on.
Yeah.
Right? Because why don't we just work with people and surround ourselves with people that are going to help us to be a better version of who we're meant to be? And we need to like try to surround ourselves with people that are heading in the same direction and have the same or very similar beliefs.
Yes.
And the same or very similar values that resonate with one another, so that we're not in that competition.
Exactly.
Because the competition actually degrades and pulls us apart and hurts unity.
Yes.
And unity is what's going to help us come together. And we see this a lot. Like, I don't like politics, but we see this a lot in like our political environment with everything from this, beer virus,
Beer.
Corona. It's like, okay, is that really like it just doesn't make sense. It's like all they're trying to do is pull the population apart so that they can have power. Right. And it's like, okay, well, let's just acknowledge what they're trying to do and then just like try to help each other to make the most of our lives.
Absolutely.
Because it's like the negativity out there is poisoning our essence of our society.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to learn to be leaders in what we're doing in our lives to help promote encouragement and love and community and unity
Absolutely.
and cooperation. So,
I have to say, I love working with people that resonate with you and have shared values. I think that is fantastic. And I think there is a lot of value in working with people that maybe have a lot of differences from you. Maybe not at that core value level, but I know personally when I take the time to have a discussion with somebody that maybe is on a different page than I am, whether it's in
but not
business,
to try to convince them otherwise.
but not try to convince them. But I think when we take that next step, and I think that's like going outside of our comfort zone to talk to somebody that maybe has a different religious background or has, come up in a different culture. There's so much shared experience there and shared knowledge that can be gained from that. And I go back to that. I really believe that we have more in common than we do different. Like if we step beyond, the differences, those differences and you're able to have that conversation with somebody and get to know them on a totally different level, you're like, oh yeah, maybe we don't see eye to eye politically, but our core values
but
are
we both
very
want to
much
help
aligned.
other people. We both want to serve. We both want to love people.
Yeah.
So let's just focus on that.
Exactly. And in the same token, you might find people that are just way off base from you, and you don't want to force that relationship because
That's what I was
you
referring
do
to.
you.
That's what I was referring
And
to.
I'll do
Because
me.
all that's going to do is create the competition.
Exactly.
Right, the strife. When both parties are coming in to try to convince the other person, neither party's going to be successful. And if you go into a conversation where you're like, hey, I want to understand you, I don't think we're going to necessarily agree, but I want to know where you're coming from, and let's actually take some time to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I think that's important to do sometimes, but not too often, because it takes a lot of energy from us to try to, if you're really like, I want to understand you and be in some kind of collaboration to see if, if we can have a relationship, right? It's okay, but do it sparingly, because, you're talking about our cups, you know, and if you are emptying your cup without filling it, you can't pour into others from an empty cup. Right. So if you spend too much energy, like I used to listen to like the podcasts and radio shows and stuff like that about political stuff. And I finally discovered I'm only watching the news and learning all this stuff so that I can have an argument and feel like I can beat somebody in an argument.
Interesting.
And then I was like, I don't want to argue. I don't want to think about that stuff. And I don't need to know everything that's going on politically, because all it's doing is making me not have the right attitude. Right. And so it was like, this isn't important. Somebody else has been assigned in life to be the warrior. That's, if they're supposed to be a warrior for that, that's their job. It's not my job, because that's going to take away from what my intention and purpose is. Right. So, because again, the arguing thing doesn't accomplish anything.
No.
You're not going to be like, okay, I have all the facts and, here's, an 8-year-old is the one that came up with the plastic straw thing. Right. If you were to like go through and like, I'm going to beat you up because I think you're an idiot. Right. It's like, okay, well, I obviously came into it with that thought. I think you're an idiot, which is the wrong point of view. Rather than be like, okay, your intention is you want to have a better environment. I do too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe the quote unquote facts that you're coming across aren't legitimate, but let's not spend time worried about that. Let's just spend time about focusing on how we can have a better life that we can live. Right. And so then all of a sudden, you're not spending an hour arguing about something that doesn't matter.
Exactly. Depleting your energy sources, all for nothing.
Yeah, because then you're emptying your cup.
Yep.
Right? And so it's like, okay. And earlier you were talking about filling your cup. I think that's something that I've been dealing with a lot. My fiance has been, is that we're always working and giving, and we always have so much to do. And it's kind of funny how this has been resonating a lot, this subject. Like, I saw somebody that I know did like a post about like, and quoted somebody that was talking about that same thing about like always pouring out and not taking time to rest. And then like the pastor at our church talked about that as part of his sermon on Saturday night. And Angela and I were like, well, and then we were talking about it before that. And then of course on Sunday when we had our State of the Union, which is our Come to Jesus, or like our weekly meeting that we try to have, where it's like, we spend like an hour and a half just like talking about everything that's going on in our lives through a format that's prescribed to help us be stronger and not ignore issues if they exist.
Yes.
And we talked about that a lot again. And it was like, and I said, I go like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, we went to Orcas Island for the weekend. And I hadn't taken a vacation in who knows how long. Right. Wow. And I was like, it was like, what would you do that for? All I do is work 7 days a week, or 6 at least. And even on the 7th day, I still do work.
Yeah.
Right. Like yesterday, I was on my computer working for at least an hour or two, when I'm supposed to be working on wedding stuff. We actually had like the maid of honor. I'm sitting there like involved, but I'm working.
Yes, of course.
Right. Because it's like, I got to get stuff done. I haven't had time.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm like, I'd shift back and forth between them when they're talking about the lady stuff that I don't care about makeup, dresses and stuff. And they asked me a question. I'm like, this is out of my privy. Stop asking me questions about this stuff. Like, when it's my turn, let me know and I'll come back. Right. But the rest subject was that we're not taking time to rest. So our actions aren't as focused or as clear.
Yes.
Right. And Pablo Picasso even has a quote that he talks, I can't remember it verbatim, but he talks about taking time to rest and rejuvenate allows you to have, it pulls you back so that when you go back to your work, you can see it from farther away and see more of what's going on. Right. And obviously he's an artist, but he's saying if you don't pull back away, then when you're coming back to it, when you pull back away, when you come back to it, you can actually see ways to find solutions, and then the time you spend on it could be more productive.
Yes.
And so we were like, we need to schedule that.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think I'll have time until the honeymoon.
Yeah.
You know,
But you can change your mindset.
49
Yes,
days,
there you
yeah.
go.
But
If you switch it
one
and
day,
say, I will make the time,
Yeah.
if you make it a priority, and that's one thing that I see so many people talk about, I don't have the time, or I don't have that. Whatever you say out
Yeah.
loud, your brain hears. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
automatically believe that.
It's
and then,
so funny you'd mention that because Christina just posted about that this
morning.
morning.
oh, did you really?
Yes.
That's
Exact
too
same
funny.
thing.
And
So we
that's
need to
what it
make
is.
time for rest,
You need to make
right?
time
Yes.
for rest.
and we literally were saying next time we go on a trip, we're going to schedule the next trip at the end of the trip that we're on. Right? Like
Love it.
literally like, okay, we're going to schedule to go to the beach for 2 days on this date. And then when it comes up, you know, while we're getting there for next 2 or 3 months to get to that weekend, then we'll like schedule and pay for the Airbnb or whatever, and then we go. And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Like, Airbnb could be like, you might spend $400 for the weekend.
Yep.
It's not like you're going to bankrupt yourself,
Yep.
right? But getting that rest will actually mean when you come back, you're more productive and you actually make more
Yes.
money for your
Yeah.
time.
Like when your wedding's done, you and your fiance, then wife, are not going to want to say, whew, we survived that. Right? You don't want to be in that mindset. And so many people do that. They go like all in, and then they're trying to plan this wedding. They're trying to run their own business. They're trying to do all the things. And then you spend all that time and all that effort for that one day, not to mention all that money, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad it's done. And you don't have to feel that way after your wedding. Like if you're making purposeful time for you, for your fiance, to set some boundaries. That's where I personally struggle, is setting boundaries for myself. I can
Right,
set
yeah.
boundaries for my family, for my kids, to make sure that they're taking time out for themselves. But that's one thing I personally struggle with. And I always say, like, I don't have enough time because I got to get this done for the kids. I've got 4 kids. I've got a husband. I have my own business and I'm working part-time. And then he's working full-time. They've got band and all this stuff. Like, there's so much stuff going on, but I'm putting myself last, and that's on me, and I have to take ownership of that. So I educate my kids and my husband when I say, you know what, mom's going to go take a bath. I'm going to be gone for the next hour. I'm going to read my new personal development book, which, by the way, I'm reading People Over Profit, and I absolutely
Oh, I've heard
love
about
it.
that a lot.
Genius. But then I'm not only, and this is my way to trick myself into thinking I'm not being selfish, but I'm teaching my children and my husband how to set those boundaries, how to take care of themselves, because I don't want them growing up and being totally burnt out, feeling like they have to give and give and give without taking care of themselves first.
Right. Christina, can you elaborate a little bit on your post that you had this morning and how you suggest people do that? Because it was so good. And I'm like, yes, I need to sit down and do that. But what helped you do that?
That is a good question. I don't know. It was like definitely mindset and figuring that out for myself. But people kept telling me all the time, like, you have to take time for yourself. And then I read books, and you know how it is, coincidence, like you hear all the things that you need to hear at the right time. So I read somewhere, I think it was a book, and they said basically, it was a mom too, and she's like, whenever the door was closed, she made sure that her family knew it was her time. And unless the door opens, nobody's gonna come in. Like, she gets that time. And anyways, like, the post this morning was more for how to motivate yourself, because I hear people like what you said. I'm like, just listening to you is like overwhelming and exhausting, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have time. But you can always make time. Get up 10 minutes earlier. You know, I was at a work trip, and I still work a job, 40 hours and more, and have my own business. And I was in the car with 3 other colleagues, and I'm like, I saw that another business partner is posting or doing a webinar, and I'm like, I want to hear that. That's too good. Like, I don't want to miss that. So I put my earphone in, like one, and I'm with the other ear, I'm listening to my coworkers in the car, and I'm like, okay, you can do it.
You can.
Like, you just have to really want to do it.
Yes.
And you have to be bigger than your excuses.
Yes. And I always say you have to make yourself a non-negotiable.
Yes.
Because what I will do, I'll be like, oh, I'm so good. I am going to go to the gym later. And then that's like priority number 2 on my to-do list. And then throughout the day, it keeps on slipping. Oh, wait, I have to go grocery shopping. I don't know what I'm making for dinner tonight. Okay, well, I can go to the gym after dinner. Okay, I know that is not going to happen. Like, as soon as I get home and I eat, 1, I don't want to go to the gym after I've eaten dinner. 2, I'm going to be so tired. Like, I know that about myself. So I have to make myself a non-negotiable in order to actually follow through with those things. And if... going back to your purpose, your why, if you really want to connect with people and share your purpose and your mission with the community at large, you want to share the best of yourself with that community. How can you do that if you're not making yourself a non-negotiable, if you're not taking care of yourself? So whatever your why is, try to, reverse engineer that mindset that way. If you want to be a great mother or a great partner and you want to teach your children by example, then tell yourself that way when you're like, I could just go to the gym tomorrow. Wait, no, I'm setting an example for these people in my life that I really care about. I need to make this a non-negotiable. Or if you're driven by business, if you want to show up and be the best business owner that you can be, how do you do that? You do that by taking care of yourself first so that you can show up for those potential clients. Because if you're walking in totally exhausted, you run ragged because you're wearing all the business hats, I'd be like, girl, you're a hot mess. I don't want to do work with you, but I know a health coach over here that you might want to get hooked up with. Oh, shoot.
I'm not talking about you.
No, I think we've all been there at some point in our life. We're just like, somebody please help me. But you have to make that commitment to yourself, just like you commit to your children, just like you commit to your partners and those special people in your life or your business. At the end of the day, it's you.
Yeah.
That's where you're coming from.
And like to Sadie's point, like what it is, how you can do it, like just example for myself. When I feel like so exhausted and I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to yell at someone, right? And it's not the right person to yell at because it's not their fault.
Is that Ryan?
No, Katie usually. Anyway,
So you yell at the wrong person, sorry.
yeah, wrong person. But I go for a walk, and it's like it's becoming a habit. And when I tell Ryan or Katie, I'm like, I'm gonna go for a walk, they're like, okay, yeah, you go. Like they know it's better for me. And you have to find something for yourself, whatever it is. It's a walk or a bath or going to the spa, whatever. Take that time, and like a walk is like what, 15, 20 minutes. And that's all it takes. But take that time and consciously take it.
Yes.
And be in that and allow yourself to have that.
It's so true. It totally works. And it doesn't even have to be grown women, kids too.
No.
Because
No.
when Marley was learning to read, she really struggled and she would get really frustrated. And when she would get to that point, we're like, okay, let's take a break. Let's go for a walk. And we would just walk around the block. And by the time we come back, she's fine. And she's ready to get back at it.
Yeah.
It totally works.
Yep. Absolutely.
Good
I wrote the word reset.
Yeah.
So take the emotions that are like bogging you down and visualize yourself putting them in a suitcase and you're on your walk and just drop them off.
Yeah,
Like
leave them.
just like actually pretend like you're setting down the suitcase with your anger or frustration or whatever, and then pick up another bag that's really light, throw it over your shoulder, and that's the gratitude or hope or love that you want to take back with you. And just visualize, okay, now I got this light backpack on. I can't even really feel it, but it's making myself feel
Better.
and full of light, and it's full of the gratitude and love and encouragement that I'm going to take back to Katie or whatever, right? So like you've thrown out the window if it's a drive, throwing the suitcase out the window, like literally push the window, let it roll down, pretend like you're throwing the suitcase out the window. People probably think this is crazy, but literally what you're doing is you're telling your mind, you're visualizing in your mind, I'm getting rid of this baggage.
And your mind doesn't know if it really existed or not.
You're telling your subconscious.
Yeah.
Like the words you were saying about like, when you're like, I don't have time.
Yes.
You're like, well, now you don't.
Now you don't. Now your brain is check. We do not have time.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Because what you say or what you believe is what's going to happen.
Or like this morning. So we live in Bremerton. we're in Tacoma, obviously. I have to get my kiddos to school, get lunches packed, do all that, get myself ready. And I felt myself getting really irritated with my youngest because he was taking too long to do this, or he's dragging his feet to, get his lunchbox, put it in the backpack, get in, where are my shoes? I don't know. I'm not the keeper of your shoes. You should know where your shoes are. You're 10 years old. And as I was getting, frustrated and irritated, I had to stop and think, okay, am I really irritated at this 10-year-old who's still trying to figure out life? Because sometimes I think we forget these children, they've only been on this earth for 10 years, 2 years, 8 months, whatever it is. And then I realized, you know what? This is coming from me because I didn't plan ahead enough. So I did not get up 20 minutes earlier to make sure that we got out the door so that I could be here at this podcast today. And probably that nervousness of being at that podcast was being passed on to my child in not the kindest way. So sometimes I have to stop and acknowledge, yes, I'm irritated. Yes, I'm frustrated. Why? Dig deeper. There's, can't remember the book I read, but if you ask yourself why 3 times, then you'll finally get to that answer. So I'm angry right now. Why are you angry? Well, you didn't take out the dishes last night. Well, why didn't I take out the dishes last night? Because I was helping Joey with his homework. Well, why were you, taking it 3 levels down at least will help you break through that initial emotional response and get to the heart of the matter.
That's good.
Maybe sometimes you gotta ask yourself why 10 times. But this morning I was like, oh my gosh, okay, you know what, buddy? This is on me. I'm sorry. We're going to take some deep breaths. And next time, Mom's going to wake up a little bit earlier so I can be there to support you. And he's like, I just want to make it easier on you, too. So whatever I can do to help, too. And I'm like, oh, man, now I feel really bad. That mom guilt. But sometimes you got to ask yourself why. And then you're like, okay, now I can replace those negative emotions with ones filled with love. Because that's really, I like to assume positive intent. When I'm having trouble with somebody that's just really irritating me, I'm like, okay, step back, kind of like Pablo Picasso, take a step back. I'm going to assume positive intent here. Where are these people coming from? Maybe they just had a really bad fight, or maybe they're financially stretched, or maybe they're trying to do all the things just like I'm trying to do all the things. So instead of coming at them with negativity, I need to have an open heart and try to understand a little bit more.
Yep.
We have to tell ourselves a different story sometimes.
Yes.
I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Like, on the way here, I'm going like speeding. I probably should
I love it.
on the air. I better just stop, edit it myself. I'm going above the speed limit, and this car comes up at me like they had to slam on their brakes not to run to the back of me. And my initial thought was, oh, I'm just going to slam on my brakes, right? And I was like, oh, or I'm going to like drive in a manner so that they get stuck in between the cars, right? Yeah. And then I was like, and then they backed off a little bit, and I thought, you know what? They probably just weren't paying attention. I was like, I had to tell myself, tell yourself a different story. They just weren't paying attention, and then they came up and had to slow down, and it has nothing to do with them being an a-hole. They just weren't paying attention, and it is what it is, and I'm cool. I'm just going to keep going the speed that I'm as comfortable going, and if they want to go around when they get the opportunity, they can, and it's just nothing, right? Like, I had to like tell myself, it's nothing. They're not trying to like run me off the road. It doesn't matter, right?
Maybe it was me trying to get to the podcast.
Maybe it was you trying to get to the podcast on time, right? But I just had to like reset that. But I had to go through the thought process because my initial response was, F this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Who's, or you can't tell, tinted windows, right? Yeah. But I was just like, and I had to be like, whoa, just reset that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Right?
You have to reprogram your mindset.
Yeah.
And it takes time. Like, it takes effort to do that.
Yeah.
I want to get to the point where
happen.
someone comes up behind me and it's not, when it's a situation like that where it doesn't have that instant like road rage where you're just like, oh, they must be in a real hurry. Like, either something's wrong and they're trying to get to it.
Yes.
And, if my mom was all of a sudden in the hospital, I would be like running people off the road to get to it, or whatever, right? It'd be like, okay, something must be wrong. Let's get out of their way. Yeah. Or it probably wasn't intentional. Like, so I think we have to work on ourselves to get to that point because we don't need to leave in anger or competition.
Talk about,
emptying
your cup. That's like the quickest way. Anger, frustration, that depletes me so quickly. And then I'm running on empty for the rest of the day, and that's not serving myself or anybody else in my life.
Yeah.
Gratitude and give grace.
Yes.
Oh, and that same pastor, he said the hardest person to give grace to is
Yourself.
yeah, because he's
Look
like
it.
he's talking about like give grace to other people. He's using examples from the book of Ephesians, and then he was like, and then he goes, and the hardest person to give grace to is the most important person to give grace to in your life, and it's like, and it's yourself,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we have to go, oh, okay, like I can't do everything,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna choose what I'm gonna work and do the best on, and then forgive myself for the stuff that I can't get to. And just be like transparent.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like it's better to tell somebody, "I'm sorry, I didn't have time." You know, I still want to work on that if you want me to. But you know, I got to sleep too,
Yeah.
and I'm, you know, it's like and just ask for forgiveness. Like give yourself grace, forgive yourself first, and then if the person still wants to work with you or whatever, they can.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think we just put so much of a burden on ourselves as being small business owners that we expect to be able to do everything. You know, and we have to be able to like give ourselves grace. So we're going to recap because it's like the end of our time. Jen, I really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we
It's
want
been
people
fantastic.
to be able to connect with you because we have like so many good points. And obviously your purpose is to connect and empower women, people in general, but women especially.
Yes,
You know, so that they can have a fulfilling life.
absolutely.
Right? And help other women and have connectivity, right? Living in cooperation, not
Yes.
competition. So obviously if you go through the Find Your Why thing, and we'll get you that little book,
Yeah.
then you'll be able to be like, it's going to come to that because you've already done this self-evaluation, right? So it's going to come to something really similar to that, and you'll just like hone it down to where it's like a sentence that's like to work on. And to like live your life by, right? And that makes it easy because then you can just tell everyone, this is why I'm here. And I want to try to do this for you and everyone else. And then they can support you and you can support them. I love to move away from the scarce mindset and move towards an abundance mindset. One out of excitement and not fear, as Sadie mentioned.
Yes.
So we were like just putting this whole thing together. This is amazing. And then obviously, like Sadie was saying, none of us is as strong as all of us.
Yes.
Yes.
So cooperation.
Absolutely.
And then make yourself a non-negotiable. The other notes I put in here is in order to follow through with what you were doing, to share with your community the best of yourself,
Yes.
because you won't be able to otherwise. To set an example for those that you love and those that you're responsible to, which is our communities, because we put ourselves out there, so we're responsible to our communities. To remove excuses and to take care of ourselves first, and then to reset is what we were talking about. And then I loved your ask yourself why 3 times when you're coming into a frustration or an anger, right? And then I think it's really important to replace that with grace,
Yeah.
Yes.
forgiveness,
And
love,
kindness.
kindness, encouragement.
Always.
You know, so this was an amazing episode, and we want
Yes,
people to
let's write a
connect
book.
with you. We're going to. When we first
Good, you
came
two
into this,
should.
yeah, actually we want to collaborate with lots of people.
Yeah.
Because it's ego that causes someone to, well, not always, but for what we want to do, ego would be, we want to write a book and it's just me, or I want to write a book and it's just Christina and I.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what if we had 6 or 8 authors collaborating together to put together a book? And my idea is less of a book and more of a workbook now,
Ooh.
to help people with business structure, starting with why, and then values and systems and so on and so forth. So you can like look at your business and kind of create like a foundation for what you're doing it for
Love it.
outside of yourself in service of others. You know, what it is that is your core values and your core beliefs and what your purpose is on this planet, and then integrate that into your business and go from there. So we'll totally collaborate. Like
Love
we'll
it.
probably, maybe we'll just make this like an open source thing. I mean, we'll figure it out, but something like that where it's just like, that'd be really cool actually.
That would be.
Like like a whole bunch of business people working together, putting input, and then we just do like the final edit to put it all together, and then all the collaborators get credit for it. I probably have to
Love
talk to
it.
an attorney like how that would work,
And-
but it's like everybody's
I'm sure
like,
you know
I want,
somebody.
I want my 2 cents, right? 2 cents of every book, right? But the whole point is that it's to help each other
Yes.
and serve other people. You know, so that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you too.
Entrepreneurial excitement.
I know.
So how do people connect with you? I know Sadie has some stuff that she's put on the screen.
Yeah, she does.
Go ahead and share.
Absolutely. So our Insta is queenbee.events, or Facebook. You can find us in all of our events on there. Our handle on Facebook is at PNW Queen Bee, or you could just type in Queen Bee Events and you can find us that way too.
Do you have a phone number that people would find you, or just through the Facebook and
Facebook, Instagram, and then email is the best way to Kale, Kale, the number 2, the Queen at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining
Of course.
us.
Thank you both so much.
We'd love
I've
to have you
loved
again
this.
at some point.
Oh, I would love to come back.
And especially when it's getting close to your next Big Ladies event.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Let's do that. We can spend more time talking about that and who the vendors are going to be and where the event's going to be and why that's happening.
Perfect.
And how you intend to impact women through the event, like what the main thesis or focus of it will be.
Love it.
Yeah.
So we'll think
Deal.
about that.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks
Thank
for joining
you.
us on Purposeful in Life with Garrett Willie
And Christina Hall.
and Sadie.
Sadie Marlowe.
Thank you, guys. Bye.